Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar this evening. It's great to have you all here. We've got a large number of registrations. I think over 500 goat producers have signed up for this webinar tonight, which is fantastic. My name's Cherie Young. I'm the Communications Manager at Integrity Systems Company. Tonight's webinar is presented by Integrity Systems Company, the Goat Industry Council of Australia, and the Sheep and Goat Traceability Task Force. It is designed to help goat producers prepare for the introduction of electronic identification by providing an understanding of their requirements around traceability as government and industry continue to work together towards a mandatory national traceability system using electronic eID for sheep and goats by the 1st of January next year, 2025. So we've got quite a bit to cover tonight. This webinar will go for until about 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so an hour and a half. I just wanted to give you a bit of a rundown of how it's all going to work. We've got quite a few people joining us tonight. First up, after my introduction, is Elizabeth Bradley, who works at Integrity Systems Company as our Quality Policy and Compliance Manager, and she's going to be presenting to you on a number of topics. Then John Falkenhagen, President of the Goat Industry Council of Australia, will join to talk about a few other specific things, and then George Basher from our ISC's operations team will give you a demonstration of the National Livestock Identification System and just how you can get into that system and upload your data and interact with that system as you need to do once you have your eIDs up and running. And then, last but not least, we have Tim Ferguson, a goat producer, Angora goat and goat meat producer from Hopetoun in Victoria. Tim's been involved in the goat industry for 30 years, which is very experienced and has lots of knowledge to share. So he's going to join us for a Q&A at the end just on his use of eID and just any tips and tricks he's come up with about utilising that. Now, before I go on, just want to let you know there's a lot to cover tonight. So the webinar is being recorded and we will be sending out a link, a pack with a lot of information in it, including the recording from tonight, plus resources that you might need that might help as you look at starting up with eID. And also the questions. We've had a number of questions posted into the registration process from you all, which is fantastic. So thanks for sending in your questions. We'll be dropping the answers to those questions into our chat as we progress through the webinar tonight. And any other questions that you have, please put them in the chat. We've got Elizabeth, George, John, all on hand to help with answering those questions tonight as they come up. So please put them in. And we'll do our best to get them to you, and then that will be all included in that post-webinar pack that you'll receive in the coming days. So basically the agenda for tonight, Elizabeth will be coming in shortly just to give you a bit of an overview of ISC and the traceability system that we operate. Then she'll also talk about the LPA program and eNVDs and just responsibilities for producers involved with that and what they need to do around ordering tags and just moving animals on and off your property and sort of covering off those details. Then John will join the webinar to talk about the sort of update you all on the eNVDs for the harvested rangeland goats, and he'll talk about new requirements when that's all coming into play. And then George will come in and do a demonstration. He'll actually go into the NLIS and you'll be able to watch him interacting with that system and mimicking what you will need to do and showing you the steps. So there's so that should be really good as well. And then we'll have Tim at the end as our guest goat producer. So Tim and I will have a little chat at the end and just go through his experiences with using eID. So I'll pass over to Elizabeth, but don't forget, put your questions in as they come to mind. We will be doing our best to answer them. So yes, take it away, Elizabeth. I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Cherie. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So tonight, as Cherie mentioned, I'm going to talk to you around the integrity system and why we're called Integrity Systems Company. So to start you out, just a reminder about why this change to eID for sheep and goats. So eID gives us the ability to rapidly trace livestock, which is really important when we're an export-focused country for our red meat. So I know a lot of you on the call are goat producers, and 95% of the meat that we produce from goats is actually exported from the country. So I think the stats that I saw yesterday was last year was $237 million worth of goat meat was exported last year. So it's a growing industry for sure, and it's all about protecting your interests in terms of if we did have an outbreak of a disease or a food safety incident that potentially shut down access to an export market, how quickly we can get back that export access for you as a producer to continue to sell your livestock. So there's big numbers being thrown around, 80 billion for the entire red meat industry, but for the goat meat industry and you as a producer, the cost of a tag compared to not being able to sell livestock for years and years, it weighs up in terms of why it's important. So eID allows us to trace livestock really, really quickly. It allows us to find any infected animals and hone in on them and make sure we can control it really fast. So that's the driver, that's the important part of it, and making sure our system's the best in the world and protecting our interests, absolutely. So just as a value prop at the start before we dive into the webinar tonight. What I'm going to talk to you about is the integrity system. So it's composed of two components, so two programs as we call them, the Livestock Production Assurance Program or LPA and the NLIS system, which is the National Livestock Identification System. So NLIS is how we identify and trace our livestock, which is legislated under your legislation with your state or territory, depending where you are. Requires you to identify your livestock, have a property identification code, and record those movements in the NLIS database to give us that livestock traceability. NLIS works really, really closely with the Livestock Production Assurance Program, which is your on-farm practices. So making sure the livestock production practices are going to meet our food safety, animal welfare, and on-farm biosecurity requirements. Both of these systems use the property identification codes that you get from your state department for your property to start that process. So it's a starting point for the property and that traceability system. We also use them to issue livestock LPA eNVDs, so be able to use that movement record to move livestock through the value chain as well. So both of them are critically important and work together to provide that assurance that our trading partners and our domestic customers and us as consumers need to make sure that the meat that we're producing is safe to eat. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about the NLIS first and then a little bit about LPA. So just as a refresher, NLIS has three key pillars that work together to deliver lifetime traceability of our livestock. So the first is our identification of livestock, which we're moving towards electronic or eID. At the moment it's a visual tag, so there's no electronic component to it, but critically that they're identifiable. The second part is the properties where livestock might be, making sure they have those property identification codes, which you get from your state department. The third part is recording movements of livestock between properties in this central database, which is the NLIS database, which IOC administers. So those three pillars work together to give us the NLIS system, and this is your legal requirement as a livestock producer. So if you do nothing else, you have to do this at least. I'll go into a little bit about eID tonight, which is the real purpose of what we're trying to communicate. So identification of goats, moving to eID, the baseline legislative requirements. Goats need to be identified before they leave your property. So if you don't want to tag them before then, you don't have to, but legally they have to be identified before they move off your property. And once they're tagged, that tag needs to remain with them for their lifetime, especially if it's an eID, because that gives it a unique identification. There's two types of tags for goats. In terms of colour, that is. So the year of birth colour gives the tag the indication that it was born on that property, and we call that a breeder tag. So that's what the year of colour kind of system means. In WA, it's mandatory. In all the other states and territories, it's recommended. That's the colour system that works for breeder tags. For post-breeder tags, they're pink in colour, and that tag can be applied to an animal that's not on its property of birth anymore. So the tag falls out. That's the type of tag that you would put on that animal if it's no longer on its property of birth. So they're the key kind of requirements around NLIS identification of goats. for colours and your requirements. In terms of the tags that you can use under the NLIS system as a goat producer, there's a lot of different ones approved, but these are the eIDs that we have approved at the moment. We have a variety of different styles. So there's some wraparound one-piece tags where the actual microchip part is actually in that kind of black piercing centerpiece of some of those one-piece tags. We also have two-piece tags, so the little round button down in the left-hand corner. It's a two-piece tag similar to the cattle tag that gets used. It's a little bit smaller, and we have a dual pin as well that has two kind of points of security. We also have a goat leg band as well that's approved if that's a suitable option for your operation and your goats. That can be applied to the leg of goats as well. So we have a variety of different eIDs that are approved for use in goats. More and more of them can be considered, and we can approve more of them if there's a need for that, and the suppliers of these tags come forward and request that approval. So we take that approval on as ISC and require stringent approval processes and field trialings of those devices as well. So these devices, it's really important to figure out what's important for your business and what works best for your operating environment, what type of fencing, what type of scrub, what kind of different environments you have as well. So if you try one and it doesn't quite work, maybe try a different one, and talk to your suppliers and your resellers about what's really going to work for your business the best. In terms of the actual eIDs and the numbers and how it all works to make sure we have unique identification of our animals, there's two key numbers for our eIDs. So I know it might look a bit complicated on the screen, but there's the top one there is the individual number that gets coded onto the microchip. So the microchip, there's a little picture there on the screen there that what they actually look like inside of the tags. And what happens is the manufacturer you buy those tags off actually codes this onto that microchip that gets read with a scanner. So this one you can't change, and it gets uploaded into the database and is a unique identification number for that tag. This number also gets linked together with the tag, the number that's printed on the outside of the tag, which we call the NLIS ID or the visual number. This number is also really important because it has your pick on it. So say that this tag was applied on this pick, so it gets issued to you, and that's how we know it starts and where that animal was tagged. It also contains some other codes and letters, which are really, really important because it lets us know what type of tag it is, who made that tag, and what type of animal it represents. So you can see on the screen there on the one that's just below it, the NLIS ID has just a made-up pick at the start. It also has a code for the manufacturer. They all have a different one each, so we know who's made that tag. It also has a code for the species of that tag. So if you're a goat producer, it'll have a letter that corresponds that it's a goat tag, and the year it was made or manufactured. So that's important as well. So we can kind of correspond that age as well with that tag. The serial number is also in that visual number that gets printed on the tag, which is available for you to customize. So you can actually request what those numbers are to match your management needs on your farm, which is important. Those two numbers get linked together by the manufacturer of those tags and uploaded to your pick in the NLIS database, which is how it starts the whole traceability process. So once you receive those tags, they're already in your the database against your pick, and then once you move those animals off, they move along the supply chain. So there's no need to activate anything; they're already there when you buy them, and then when you receive them from the person that you've bought them from. So that's basically the tags in a general sense. How you go about ordering eIDs. You can order them with a reseller or retailer. You can order them online. You can also order them with some tag suppliers directly. We have a list of approved tag suppliers and tags on our website, which we can share with you through the post-webinar information. When you order tags, it's really important that you specify that you need goat tags because they have that species code in them, and that's how we track that it's actually a goat that's moving in the database. So really important that you remember to do that. You request your colour as well, whether it's yellow, which is the default colour, or the year of birth, if you're following that process. You can also customize that serial number, like I said, when you make that order. So you can start at 1, or if you've got specific management systems that you have on your farm that you want to, number your goats specifically, you can request that when you order them. And if you haven't bought those types of tags before, it's important to get the applicator, because application is very, very important for retention of those tags. If you use the wrong applicator, potentially you won't get the proper application and it won't seal properly and it will fall out. So don't forget your applicator and make sure you use the right applicator with the right tags for the best retention possible. In terms of issues with NLIS eIDs, or any NLIS tags for that matter, if you have issues with retention, or they're not reading, or something else is going wrong, we really encourage you to contact the supplier who supplied you with those tags. They do have to have a complaints process in place, and they'll come out and investigate that with you. They might replace, refund, take other actions depending on what's happening. In the first instance, it's someone that you're buying a product off, so they definitely will help you and investigate that issue with you. If you do take it to your supplier and you're not happy with their response, absolutely send it on to us. You can lodge a request for a complaint or an investigation on the ISC website, and we'll investigate that with the manufacturer. They have to report all of the complaints they receive to us, and we investigate them as well. So we definitely will see them. But if you're not satisfied, please say something about it so we actually can do something about it. The next part around the NLIS requirements is recording your livestock movements in the database. So if you don't have an NLIS account, you should register for one so you have access to it. It's free to do. You go online and register with your PIC. You get that account and you're able to do all these movements as a producer in the database. So legally, it's a requirement for the receiver of livestock to transfer your livestock onto the PIC within 2 days of their arrival. If you're just selling livestock, it's important to go on and check that they've actually been moved off by the person who's received them, and you can transfer them off yourself if you want to. It's not your requirement legally to do that, but you can actually facilitate that as the person sending them. And if you are using other people or third parties or agents or someone else to do those transfers for you, you can log on and check to make sure that those transfers have been done and that it actually reflects the livestock on your PIC, to make sure we've got that traceability happening through the supply chain. So as an overall, that's the requirements in terms of your NLIS requirements. And now I'm going to talk around LPA, so the other part of the integrity system. So LPA is your accreditation process, which looks at your on-farm practices. So it requires you to re-accredit every 3 years at the moment, and that's completing assessment, confirming that you understand the requirements, agreeing to have an audit if you get selected, and making that accreditation payment for that fee. So LPA is important because it really gives our trading partners knowledge and understanding that we know what we're doing and it's a safe and quality product we're sending them. LPA is made up of 7 different modules or elements which are in the LPA standards, which talk to food safety, so property risks, animal treatments, what you're feeding livestock, getting them ready for transport. We also look at livestock transactions and movements, which is around our NLIS requirements, which I just talked about, and eNVDs. It also requires you to have a biosecurity plan in place about what happens on your property and have an understanding of the animal welfare standards and guidelines. So all of this can be audited. If you get picked for an audit, it's a requirement to undergo that audit. And making sure that you're following these requirements. So these requirements relate to questions on the LPA NVD, which is really important because you need to communicate that food safety requirement has been met as you move the livestock through the supply chain. But tonight we're going to focus in on element 5 or module 5, which is the livestock transactions and movements, because it's all around traceability. So traceability with respect to livestock in LPA talks about communicating the food safety status of those animals. And it's divided in my mind into 2 different sections. So dispatching goats, so you're actually sending goats on, and the requirements around that is making sure that you've got records for the declarations you're making on your NVD. So if you've given your livestock treatments, that you've got backup records to say that they're not in a withhold period, and you're communicating that on the NVD. The other part is obviously completing your LPA NVD completely, accurately, and truthfully. And if you have managed or farm goats, that they're NLIS identified before you actually move them off your property as well. The other part is around receiving goats. So if you're buying goats in from somewhere else, making sure you're obtaining copies of your LPA NVDs and retaining them for 7 years, which is usually the required legislative timeframes. The other part of receiving livestock or goats onto your property is moving those goats onto your PIC in the NLIS database within that 2-day period, which is really important if we need to trace them for traceability or for a disease outbreak or a food safety issue as well. So that's generally how the two systems really interlink together really nicely between NLIS and LPA. But if you're doing everything under LPA correctly, everything under NLIS should tick across for you as well. The LPA NVD is a really important part of LPA and the whole traceability and integrity system. So we have the paper-based NVDs, which you can purchase. And we also have the electronic NVD system, which comprises of the website where you can create it on a computer. And we have the eNVD mobile app, which we released at the end of 2022, which allows you to create those consignments for free and digitally and share them with who they're going to without printing them and any issues with paper. We still have the books available, so they're not going anywhere just yet. So they're still there, but we do have those variety of streams that you can use to create those NVDs. It's really important that you complete all of the questions on the NVDs because the processor or the person receiving it at the end needs all that information to make informed decisions about what they do with those livestock. So it's really, really important that you answer all those questions, you sign it, that you date it, the transport details are all filled out. Some key changes that are happening for you, which John will talk about in just a little bit. There's a new version of the goat NVD that will start and be valid from the 1st of January 2025, which will just be around managed goats and goats that have NLIS identification. So the goat NVDs that currently exist will merge into this new version. And we'll have a new version of an NVD specifically for harvested rangeland goats. So this one will be released shortly and comes with it a whole suite of packages around harvested rangeland goats, which John will talk to in just a little bit. So really important and really exciting things are happening. And it would be remiss of me not to plug our eNVD system. It is free, so you don't have to actually pay for eNVDs like you do with the paper books. It is available on the web, and the mobile app, which also works offline, is also available. eNVD stores everything in one location. You can still print off eNVDs if you choose to, and you can share them with producers that you're sending to, or processors, or whomever is receiving them automatically through the system. So it is a bit of a time saver if you're tech savvy and ready to go, and it's the way of the future, we think. So please jump on and try eNVD if you haven't. But George will show you a little bit about the eNVD system as well through his demonstration. But I'm finished talking now. And what I'll do is I'll hand over to John, who's going to run you through the requirements around the new harvested rangeland goat accreditation module. So John, I'll pass to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Certainly a hard act to follow. So I'll just be talking mainly about the new requirements around harvested rangeland goats. And a little bit on where we're at with the rollout. So sorry, I'm just having a bit of trouble with slides. So for the harvested rangeland people on here tonight, you would be well and truly familiar with the definition that's just been put in front of you. A goat that has been captured from a wild state, that has not been born as a result of a managed breeding program, and has not been subjected to any animal husbandry procedure or treatment. That definition hasn't changed, and it won't change. And the pathways for that device-free movement is from property of capture to an abattoir, or through one registered depot to an abattoir. So there's really only two definitions of goat. There's harvested rangeland and then there's managed goat. Harvested rangeland have the option of moving device free through the pathway that I've just described, direct to an abattoir, or through one registered depot to an abattoir. All other movements, so property to property, shows, sale yards, anything like that, they must have a device applied, and all movements must be recorded on the database within 2 days. And that's the same for harvested rangeland as well. The recording of that information for every movement within 2 days. So this is the bit that the harvesters are interested in. As of 1 January 25, the new system will come into place. And this is an accreditation program for the harvested rangeland industry. So to do this, every goat producer needs to be accredited under LPA for goats. Elizabeth just went through that all for us. So if you want to be a harvester, you then need to have the HRG module under LPA. Complete that. That will send a notification to your state department, who will then review your application and say yes or no. And then that will, if you get a yes, eligible goats can then be moved without a device under the two pathways that I just described. So this is a simple little flowchart that we'll be rolling out, and you'll see lots more of this over the coming weeks, months, and years. So does your goat meet the definition? Yes or no? If it's a yes, will your HRG move direct to slaughter or through one registered depot? Yes or no? If it's a yes, we can continue on, get your accreditation, get your state approval. This will happen on a LPA cycle. So like you do now, every 3 years you do your LPA accreditation. The LPA for HRG will link into that cycle. So once you've got that, you'll be able to move them device free. They will need to be accompanied with their own HRG eNVD, which I'll show you a copy of in a minute. And this is where Elizabeth talked about the 2 eNVDs for the goat industry now. If you're moving goats with a device, the same eNVD that you've been using now that has just been updated. But if you're moving them without a device, they're under the new eNVD. All other goats that fall outside of this, all other goats must be identified with an LS device, managed as per LPA goat accreditation, moved with a goat eNVD, uploaded by the receiver to the database within 2 days of the arrival of the new pick. So we've made it pretty easy to distinguish between the 2 waybills. This is a mock-up version of the new HRG eNVD. It's going to be blue. So if you've got harvested rangeland goats, you get your accreditation. That'll give you access to this eNVD, which will allow you to move those goats through those 2 pathways only. Property to property, they must be tagged and move on the red one. So where are we at in introducing the new system? Where are we at with the rollout of eID? So GEICA has continued to work closely with the state jurisdictions on legislation to implement eIDs for goats across the country, as well as making sure that we're covered under HRG. We're working very closely to increase our traceability and maintain our market access. We're working with SafeMeet to finalise the standards. This will answer everybody's questions about harmonisation across our federated country. This is close, and we'll have that hopefully delivered by the middle of the year. Continue to work with ISC. As you see tonight, ISC are doing a lot for the red meat industry. So we're working on them with them to make sure that LPA, HRG accreditation modules, NVDs, and everything is ready to roll for 1 January 25. So tonight isn't the last you're going to hear about eIDs, traceability, and all of the rest of the information. This is just the start. There has been talk about an information vacuum. Well, that's just about to be over. You've got tonight's information to work with, and this is where Geica's going to appear in person in front of you in the next 12 months. So we're coming to the WA. We're going to be at the Gidgegannup Field Day on the 26th of May. In South Australia, we have 2 events planned, one on the 17th of July at Quorn, one on the 17th of August at Mount Pleasant. These are going to be mini field days, goat only. We're going to talk about eIDs. We're going to talk about what you need to do, but we're also going to bring other things along for the goat industry to make sure it's an action-packed day. New South Wales, we're coming to Broken Hill on the 26th of August, to Dubbo, 27th of August. Again, the same as South Australia, mini field days, bringing lots of information. If you want something specific, get in contact with Geica and we'll see what we can do. Queensland, we're coming to Charleville on 29th of August, and another location in Queensland that we're still working on, but it will be on the 30th of August. And Tassie, we are coming down there. We're just still working with guys, excuse me, on locations and dates, but we'll make sure that you are well informed ahead of time. I think my slides went backwards. Here we go. So we're all heading to a harmonised system, increasing our traceability. We've already got a world-class system. We're making it better, but each state is getting there at a different rate. So I encourage you to look at this slide for your state, when your tagging requirements, when your property-to-property reading requirements are. Keep in contact with your state department on not just when your tagging requirements are, when your database requirements are, but also, this is a busy slide, I realise, but there are tag incentives out there. This will show the states that have already implemented them. There are going to be infrastructure incentives out there. This also shows where legislation is being drafted in each state. So there's a lot of work going on across the country. Yes, it is happening at different rates, but we're all going to end up at the same place in a harmonised strengthened traceability system. So I hope that has covered off enough information for our harvesters, that there is a program coming in that is going to support you. You're going to have to do a bit of work to get it, but it's going to make our industry so much better. So now I get to hand over to George. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'll just take over the screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. Is that a yes?
I'll confirm, George. Well done, mate.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name's George. I've been with NLIS for 25 or 26 years. I lost count. Started off with cattle back 26 years ago when everyone said that livestock can't have an eID. That was obviously proven wrong. Then 20 years later, they said the same with sheep, and now it's just become a factor of life, and livestock all around the world are now using eID. I've answered some of your Q&As. I'll go back to a few of them. So I'll go through the NLIS database, and I'll talk about the NLIS database, how to get onto it, how to use it, run some reports, do a transfer, and show you how to use or access the eNVD. So the best way to get to the NLIS is go to mymla.com.au or just mla.com, and I've logged in to mymla. Then click on mymla, you get to this screen, and I'm going to log in using mymla. Click on that. Takes you to your mymla page. We'll log into mymla. It's the best way to do it. So mymla has been around for a few years now. MLA received many complaints saying there were way too many passwords and user IDs, one for MSA, LPA, NLIS, I think called LDL or My Feedback. So we created a one portal system. So from here, I can access any of these things, LPA, NLIS, My Feedback, or NVDs. So today we'll go to NLIS. And some people have more than one account. I've got 3 separate accounts. Today I'm going to log into my producer account, which is this test pod. I have already linked it. So I'll click on login. And now I'll go into my NLIS page. And this is a very typical, this is a producer homepage. So for all of you on the call, your producer homepage. And the first thing you'll see is I'm working with cattle. I can change that to work with goats individual. We're going to be talking about eID, so we click on goat individual. And up the top here, there's a help tool. Click on help. Now, because this is fairly new, and we haven't actually got a lot of goat information, you'll see there's only 2 goat tips here, tech tips for goats. But if you change it to cattle, that's been around for 25 years, and they've been using eID. So there's a lot of status, a lot of tech tips here for device statuses, how to do all sorts of things on the system. We will be adding a lot more into the goat area. So for the time being, there's only a couple. So we'll go back up here to this home page up here, up the top left, click on home. And again, back to our home page. When we have to take the system down for any reason, and we did on the weekend, we'll have a banner up the top saying, the system will be down on such and such days. One thing I do, I click on this hide header up on the top right-hand side. Just gives you more screen to play with. I'm getting old and having to wear thick glasses now, so I need as much screen size as I can get. So I want to work with goats and then a drop-down menu. So working with goat individual, what do I want to do today? There's 3 areas, so the blue heading, account management. That's if you want to add, if you start to buy sheep and you want to add that as a species, you can change the species and add sheep individual. Then there's this notify the database of this blue heading with these. This is what you do to the system. In other words, you're changing data. Things like moving livestock onto or off your property, setting animals to deceased, giving animals a status. So this is what you do to the database. And then there's your reports. Today, we'll go through and do 2 things. We'll move some goats onto the property. So we're going to this one here, livestock moved onto my property. Click on that one. Then go. And there's 2 ways to do it. If you're using software, you'd use the bottom one, but we're going to do things on the screen. And a large majority of our cattle and sheep producers currently use the screen version. So we do this here, type in the details manually on the screen. Pretty simple. You got 6 boxes. This is where you type in your tag numbers. So your electronic numbers, and I've got some here already lined up. So these are the electronic tag numbers. So I've gone out, used a scanner, scanned the tags, and use a scanner to plug into my computer, or you can Bluetooth most of them. And these are the tag numbers. And later on, I'll show you if you want to do it manually. But you could do it manually here too. That is, if you eyeball the tag, you can type in the visual number. I'll go through that a bit later. So there's this tags. Where are they coming from? Moving them to, sorry, they're coming to my QDZZ. So these are properties linked to my account. So this is the livestock moved onto my property. So these are from my property, QDZZ. Where are they coming from? And we'll use this one, QBZZ. We'll do an eNVD number of 987 654321. The animals are moved today. And there's 35 animals. Now, in this list here, there's only 30 tags, but we'll put 35 because in that initial period, as John said, from the 1st of January next year, we have to tag all newborn. So these are discrepancies. So there's 35 animals, 30 in the list. You click continue, and it's confirming. Are you moving them to this property, from this property, with this one waybill number on this date, with this number ahead? And there's a list of some of the tags. You go next page, next page. There's a list of the tags. We click send. It's now sent it to the database. The database has now received it and given us a receipt number. They've given us these numbers, 7980, 85, 86, given us a few uploads. Because I put that 35 head in, it gives us a counterbalance saying, well, you sent us some tags, and you've also told us there's more tags than you had, more animals in the upload than you had. So we'll click on view my transaction history, and it's going to show us whether there was any issues. So what's uploaded today? We continue. So this is showing me what has happened today. We see that these are the tags we just uploaded. They were the 3 numbers, and there's an error. So we click on the error, and it's going to tell us that one device, this device is already on the pick. So I ran this morning, and I transferred this animal so I could show you this error. So although I scanned the 30, 29 haven't been transferred, 1 was already transferred. And this typically happens, we know, in cattle and sheep, because an animal might come near the reader that's already on the property. They usually bring an old cow up on the property, so the younger cows can come on. So they've scanned this extra tag, and we've come up with a warning. In this case here, we've come up with an error saying we can't move this animal onto your property, 1 out of the whole lot, but we can move the rest. So we've now got an error message saying the device is ready here, but only 1. So we click close, and we click on back home. That's the process that you must do. So legislation, when you're receiving livestock, going forward. So moving animals onto your property. Some of the questions in the Q&A are, well, what if you buy from a sale yard? What if you buy from something like Auctions Plus, Facebook, or Marketplace? Well, sale yards will do the transfer, but all the online auctions won't. So you'll have to do it yourself. It's a common question we get, and a common issue we discover at audits. People don't do the transfers. They think, oh, but it was an auction. Auctions Plus, Marketplace aren't considered to be auctions. So how do we know what got transferred? And this is the next part of it. We click on I want to. We're going to run reports now. Look at view devices on my property. We'll click that report. And don't be afraid to play with these reports. You can't break the system, although we have had issues the last couple of days. We've made some major upgrades. And every time you do any major upgrades on computers, things don't always go to plan, but things are working well now. So we're going to go to, sorry, go back here. View devices on my property. Now we're looking at all the animals that are on the property livestock transferred onto the property. Looking at goats, we want to see what was transferred today. Nothing was found on QBZZ. Now we use the other property, QDZZ. What was transferred today? 29. So in that list, there were 29 tags. There were 30 tags in that list. 29 were transferred, 1 wasn't. So if we change this back and say, okay, what's been transferred in the last month? The number's 30 now. So we can sort by movement date. And we see this one is the 7th of the 4th. So that's the one I did earlier with a different date, just to show you that you can run these reports. They're pretty easy to run, pretty quick. That's for small numbers, 30 goats. So basic movements, confirm that's been done. So if you're buying through a sale yard, or if you're buying through someone who said they're going to do the transfer for you, or even if you do the transfer, log in and have a look. It's very, very simple. After you've done the transfer, pretty simple. You go to run reports, and these are all the different types of reports you can run. So livestock moved onto my property. And if you're selling, you want to make sure, have they moved off? So livestock transferred off my property. And that's the BZZ, the 2222. And we moved those 29 off there today. There's the 29. And we moved 1 off earlier in the week. There's the 30. So I can identify 30 moved off this property. So you can feel comfort that, yes, you send them to the yards or the abattoir, and they've gone off. The other report that's very useful are devices purchased. So this report here, devices purchased, from your drop down. You want to see all the animals that, so all the tags that you purchased for QBZZ 2222 this month. $50. Excuse me. So 50 tags have been purchased for this pick, QBZZ 2222. That's the prop they're on. That's the microchip number. That's the number typed on the outside of the tag. Now it's A, that's a company brand. K is the code that identifies this as a goat. S and T are for sheep, breeder and post breeder. B and E for cattle. So we know this is a goat tag. Again, in the Q&A, there were 3 questions about, can I use my sheep tags for my goat? The answer is no, because we identify K as a goat tag. And if we look over here at species, you see it's showing species goats. I take this back and open it up to all species. So just change the species to all, taking it back to the beginning of the year. And there's, as you can see, 2,050 tags that I have purchased that are all species. So I'll just have a look. I know this is a goat specific seminar, a webinar, but this is showing us that we can have all species here. And look at the goat species column. Then it will change down to sheep. And the difference in sheep codes is, as you can see, it's S is the middle letter. S identifies as a sheep animal, or the tag is for sheep. And we scroll down a lot further, we see that the B is for cattle, EBW. So the W is the year the tag was made. E is the company that made the tag, but B means it's a cattle tag. That's why we have 3 different types of tags, and the tags are made and they go through rigorous testing. Elizabeth's also works with a lot of the tag manufacturers to get them over the line to become accredited or not accredited, depending on whether they meet all the standards and criteria for that species. So for sheep, they have to be sheep specific. I need to raise that because there were several questions about, can I use type of tag? Well, the answer is no, because of that reason. So go back home. There we go again. I want to livestock transferred onto my property. Click go. Type in the details. This time I've eyeballed the tag numbers and have the outside tag number that's printed on the outside. Got up there. I'll use my iPhone, get a photo of it, come back and zoomed it out. They come onto my 333 property or 3333 property. Come off this property. Change the weighboard number. They moved today, and there were only 3 animals. We continue. Again, confirmation. Do you want to do this? There's the 3 tags. So the first part of a tag, by the way, is the PIC that the tag was issued to. And then the AKU are the codes. The A is the company that made the tag, K is a go tag, and the U is a tag, the year the tag was made. And the last numbers are random numbers. They usually start off with 0001 and go up to whatever number. You can start that tag range off anything you want. Hit send. Again, we got an ID number. We can view the history of what we've done today. This is today. Go back as far back as you want. We just want to look at what we did today, just now. Continue. And this time here, we've got complete status. So they're the 3 files that this one upload creates. It's got the 4, then it's broken up into 2, and they're all complete. So the file went through. Go quickly again, go back home. I want to view what's happened. So go back to view device on my property. Also transferred onto my property. Change this to 3. And we had 29 before. And just got 3 more now, so now it's 32. So confirm that we've done that 3 upload. That's 3 tags. And there they are there. It's stored by the eNVD number. So very simple. Play with these reports. They're pretty simple to use, pretty easy to use. You don't need to run a lot of them. Devices purchased every time you buy tags, movements on and off. So go back to home. Click on this show header. Then we're back to the home page. So, and the last thing I'll show you is check in eNVD. So we'll hide the header again. Very last function on the first page is you want to view your eNVDs. Click go. So there's nothing done today. We scroll down. These are eNVDs that have been submitted. Again, these are all our test ones. So here's one here, options. You want to generate this PDF. So I want to look at what happened in this particular case on the 5th of April, 200 goats. We click generate PDF. And there's that PDF. So these were either created by me or they come in to me. In this case here, I'm the creator of this eNVD. So that's where to view. So these are incoming, as you can see, outgoing. That's the one I created as a seller. This is the one I received as a buyer. Now, if you want to create your own eNVD, when you've logged in to NLIS, but only when you're logged in via MyMalay. If you log in directly, it won't work. It only works if you've logged in via MyMalay. Up here, create new consignment. You're going to create it from scratch. Where are they going to? So you can find a place, or you can just use, these are the ones I've used before. This is my testing. This is the real life system, by the way. This is the real life database, but just using these properties that I've got access to. So that's where they're coming from, where they're going to, when were they moved. They're moving tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. We want goat. We just want an NVD. We can also include a health declaration. Add description. We won't go into too much details, but this that put the number of head, the sex. Go next. You can ask more questions. Have the livestock been owned? Are they eligible to be moved tag free? Have they been fed anything they shouldn't be, etc. So this just goes on and on. There's several pages. Ask to confirm. You can sign it. I won't do it for now. Just takes time. Accept terms and conditions, and then you can submit it. So that's the process to create an eNVD. If you answer all the questions, just goes through. You're sure you want to submit this? You go yes. And because there's a lot of unanswered questions, it'll come up with the classic. You've read, understood the terms and conditions. It's also saying that there's questions I haven't answered. So you just go through the whole process and it finishes it off for you, print it off, or scan it and give it to your driver. So that's the PDF I just did. I kept the same conditions as the last time. I didn't answer any questions. That's what I signed. That's how you generate a eNVD. So go back up the top, back to consignments, up the top left. And this is what I've received moving today. There's nothing, so I'm moving it tomorrow. And this one I just created just now is moving tomorrow. I didn't say how many head or anything, I simply said goat. So that's why it's only got their goat. You can view these, open them, print them. So that's your eNVD. So you create it on the top and you view it from down here. And the way you access it is via your home page. From your home page, right down the bottom, view my eNVDs. And that's about it for me. Have a play. It doesn't hurt the system. Especially running reports. Moving the animals is pretty simple. Copy paste is the easiest. The most difficult part is if you're buying lots of goats and you have a scanner, the software will work for you. But if you just scan the tags, make sure that whatever you scan, you're able to put onto your computer.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
That was very well done. Thank you for taking us through that. Very clear demonstration. So hopefully everyone on the call was able to kind of understand and get something out of that demonstration. As I said before we started, this is all being recorded and you will get that recording. So and there's also a lot of resources on the ISC NLIS page to help you understand how to use the NLIS and the eNVD. There's lots and lots out there for you. So thank you, George, for your time to take everyone through, and thank you for all your questions. I've been watching them come in and it's great to see all that interaction. So it's excellent. So now we're at the part of our webinar where we'll introduce Tim Ferguson to the call. Thank you for coming along, Tim, and giving up your time tonight to talk to everybody. Tim joins us from Hopetoun, Victoria, where he has a Angora and goat meat production system going on. So just get Tim to join in and we're just going to go through just a bit of his experiences.
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Yeah, well, thank you.
That's good. Thank you. I might just go to the next slide, Bridget. There we go. We've got some photos of Tim there so you can all see. Thanks for joining us, Tim. Really appreciate your time. I guess it was probably just just given we've got a lot of goat producers on here who haven't had to use eID before. So it was just great to have someone come along who has been using it for quite some time. So I just thought it'd be great if we could just start with just a bit of background, like when did you first start using eID for your goats?
Yeah, so we started before the Victorian was made too, like before we come in. So I can't actually remember the date. Was it 18, January 18 or something? But we started probably 2 years before that, started using eIDs in our stud goats and sheep.
Yep. So that's quite a long time. And what are you sort of finding, I guess, for your goats? I know you've got them across your sheep as well, but what are you kind of finding as to be sort of the sort of benefits that you've been able to see from once you started using it and got sort of up to speed on how to use that? Some benefits that you're starting to notice.
So as we've seen in the last 3 speakers, how important it is for the whole traceability and for the whole agricultural world. But from us, it's a way of not using paper and pencils anymore. It's everything's done by the scanner. We use it from when we're weighing to record, so we can set up, after we do the scanning and weighing, it comes home and gets put onto spreadsheets through the computer, so that we can see growth rates, we can see what's everything. So with our stud Angoras, we use it from birth. So we scan the mother and scan the kids, or put the tags in at day olds, and then we scan the mother, and then we use our XR5000, which is just an indicator. We just use that to record all our stuff. So it's not done by pen and paper anymore. It's all done by the tag.
And having that recorded electronically, like how do you then sort of use that? Like how does that help you?
So it's just the whole, we bring that home and put it straight into the computer. So it's no double handling, no misreading tags. And as we get older, it's harder to read, and the tags seem to get smaller each year. It is there's no chance of any misinformation getting jotted down, so everything's correct, and that's fairly important to us when we start making assessments and trying to pick out lines of animals. There's no way it's been it's 100% correct. We haven't written down the wrong number.
Yeah. And does it help you kind of keep track of singles and twins and all that sort of information that it might have been harder to keep track of otherwise?
So at preg scanning, the scanner's got a scanner on there, so it's all given to us in electronic form. So as soon as she finishes, although we do still put a brand on singles or twins, probably more so on the twins, we put a dot so we can easily draft them off, but everything's done on the scanner as well. So when we come home, we can track down which lines are doing better or which animals are producing better each year. And as soon as it goes into the indicator, it'll come up what the does had for the previous however many joinings we've had, so that we get a really good indication on what animals are actually performing better, and we can use that in our culling process.
Yeah, very good. Okay. And then sort of in your experience, what type of tag do you feel works best for you and for your operation?
The wraparound's been good for us. The button tags, we had issues with, and it may be our climate, but we did have some sweating and then getting infected on the button tags. On the wraparounds, we haven't had any real issues. We did have some break in half on the seam, but I haven't, which it is it happens from time to time in the sheep as well, but in the goat it didn't make any difference. If it did crack on the seam, it hung both sides, so we didn't actually lose any tags or many tags on the goats. We did have some issues on the sheep, but we haven't had the issue on the goats.
Okay, good to hear. And then I guess, oh, sorry, you go.
I presume it's just because of the way that the ear hangs and the bigger ear, and it sort of probably protects the tag a bit more probably than in the sheep game.
Okay, good stuff. And then I guess just another question maybe for people that haven't done this so much before is whereabouts, like tag placement, like any tips on best placement for, best retention?
Well, it's a bit hard to see on that photo, but where about with that, because that's the wrong side that's just the visual tag on that side. So it's it's in the same spot. We come in from the back of the ear, because we're doing a day old, we're given a little bit of growth area. And from time to time that does get a bit close, but the majority of the time we've got it pretty right, and it sort of fills the gap, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So as I said the other day, we do the girls are always right, so they're always in the right ear and the boys are in the left ear.
Very good. Like that.
Which I'm sure some would.
Good stuff. Okay. And then I guess the next one we sort of wanted to talk about is equipment. And I'm sure that there's all sorts of options out there for equipment, and the sky is the limit with how far you need to go. I guess just what it was hoping you could sort of give us some insight into what sort of equipment you would recommend as a basic sort of startup, and and then if people are wanting to get a bit more invested in the equipment side, where they could go, but just from a starting point, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think your first quote was probably the quote of the day, because I think the sky is the limit, depending on what you want to do and how involved you want to be, or what programs you want to run. We're only running a Gallagher wand or a True Test wand. They're both very good to use, very easy to use. Our indicators in XR5000, so it's probably the top of the range for the indicators when it comes to True Test, but I'm sure there's other products out there that would supersede it now, but I don't. It does everything we need to do, from recording to get it back into the PC, so we can run our spreadsheets, and we can pretty much make up what we want out of the spreadsheet. So as long as the information goes into there, you can pretty much do what you want with it. So in saying that, like, the scanners are going to range, and I don't know the full value of them, but I would have thought probably that 1,500 through to 3-5 grand, somewhere there would be the mark. The XR for us was about 5,000. I'm not sure if they're about the same now or not, $5,000. So depending on what you want, there would be cheaper setups for it, but I don't know the costing. But
yeah,
there is certainly ways of getting that, and as we talked about the other day, there'd be a lot of products out there secondhand which would be cheaper, that people have moved on from. So I'd advise, if anyone does want to do it on the cheaper, check out some secondhand gear, because it really does. It does a lot of stuff. Like a lot of the gear that is out there does more than what we probably are able to do with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I guess as you get more into like aware of the capabilities of the technology, you can learn what you can get out of it as you go. But yeah, it's good to get that idea just from a starting point. So we have had a couple of questions come in. One of them is, can smaller farms make do without a scanner? And I guess we sort of point to that on our slide, like if you didn't have that, could you, just how you would operate without that, without a wand, for example?
Yeah, from my point of view, it would be probably hard to do without a wand, but I think with a cheaper wand and then get that information back into your PC, you can, and then you can do what you can achieve most things from your own spreadsheets.
Yeah.
From
So long.
recording through to like we put in another thing we do just to give people, when we're picking our does, when we're doing our mating groups, that's all done at home, and then we put it in the wand, and then we just walk along the race. And when it bips at a different noise, we know that one's got to go with that certain buck. So you can do a lot of your stuff, a lot of your judgment, assessment, breeding programs. You can do it all at home, and then the wand will tell you which one to draft out, pretty much.
Yeah, I can see the benefit of that. There is another question, Tim. It says, "G'day, Tim. Thank you for your information. How do you manage the goats? Are they free ranging outside? What vegetation are they encountering?" Sorry, just get the rest of the question. Yes, what vegetation are they encountering? We have had very poor success with all ear tags retention in scrubby country. Would you be able to offer an answer?
So the boar cross are running in a scrubby type area. It's got 300 acres of scrub in open paddocks. It's mainly on a what would you call it? Sort of medic ryegrass fodder in them. All the Angoras are run home, which are on probably a vetch cereal, vetch barley, oats during the winter, and then stubbles through as you can see on that other photo, the stubbles through the summer. So because we're a sheep wheat goat property, majority of our area, majority of our farm does go into crop because we haven't. Yeah, that's just our fodder.
Yeah. So this question says we've had very poor success with all ear tag retention in scrubby country. I don't know if you've got any advice to offer.
It'd be only a placement, and yeah, I haven't had the issue, so I'm probably not the best to talk to. But
yeah,
I know some did cut the tag, so I did cut on the fold, so I did hang on each side of the ear. May help. Apart from that, I don't. It'd be only the area. Probably keep it further back in the ear, perhaps, so that it's the ear's taking the brunt. But yeah, I'm probably not the best to.
Yeah. Okay.
Speak on that.
No, thanks for having a go.
All right.
That's all good.
Right.
And then I guess just towards the end of our question and answer session, but I just, any sort of words of advice or nuggets of wisdom you might say for people out there.
Yeah, it's
to help them out.
So that probably the one thing we did do is we've set 10 tags aside, so we use them as guinea pigs, I suppose, before we go to the yards. If we're going to do some procedure that we haven't done before, we'll run through them with them tags and make sure we know what we're doing before we go and get the goats in and work in the yards with them, just so that we know the scanner's doing what we want it to do, and you don't waste 3 hours yelling at each other trying to get things to work and Bluetooth's not hooking up, or just little things like that just to make it easier and make sure that it's going to work and you don't waste time.
Yeah.
Don't know. Apart from that, that's probably me work. That's me.
That's your main one.
Well, yeah. It's pretty important to get it right, isn't it? But I think apart from that, I'd just be encouraging people to buy the tags and try them as early, because we haven't looked back since we've used them. It saved us a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of it just makes it a lot easier for us. And I just encourage people to have a go at it for a start before their dates are upon them, because I think there'll be a lot of people enjoy the use of them.
Yeah, just to, I guess, just to sort of wrap it up, but when you kind of got going with it, you know, what was it like when you had to first start doing this? It was a brand new thing. How did you find that?
Yeah, well, it's challenging, and a lot of the stuff we used at the start was a lot clunkier than it is now. It's a lot of the products out there are getting better and better, and now I've got a daughter that's 18 years old and she knows how to do things like that. It makes it a lot easier as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to. So yeah, it's just trying to make sure you understand the products you're using and try and get ones that work with you. As I said before, the True Test have got a really good with the XR and that, they've got a really good company that people to ring 24. I'm pretty sure it's 24/7. If it's not, it's pretty close to it. And they are really good they'll just help you through the issues that you've got on any day.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. I think that's been a pretty good rundown of everything. So we really appreciate you coming onto the webinar tonight and helping to explain the eID to everyone. So I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the webinar, unless John, you wanted to have any final words. I don't know if you want to go over your dates again for your tour, or you're all good.
No, I think I'm all good. Cherie will be publicising those tour dates far and wide, so more information for the industry to come.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's all good. So yeah, just on the screen there is some more information to do with Integrity Systems Company, how you can get in touch with us if you have any questions with anything that you need to know about NLIS, your NVDs, your tags. You know, we can help you out. So we will be definitely getting a pack out to everyone who registered for tonight's webinar, and it will have the recording, the questions and answers from tonight, the information that we think you might help you in this journey. And yeah, we really look forward. We'll be definitely hosting more of similar webinars as time goes by. So look forward to having you here again. But yeah, on behalf of Integrity Systems Company, the Goat Industry Council of Australia, the Sheep and Goat Traceability Task Force, just like to say thank you for coming along tonight. There is a short survey that is coming into the chat, which we'd really appreciate if you could fill it in, because it'll just help guide us on topics or other information that you're kind of looking for, so we can help with that as well. But yeah, I think questions are pretty much, let's see, I think we've got a few more left in there being answered at the moment, so we can keep the chat open to answer those. But other than that, yeah, I'd just like to say thank you, and we hope you enjoyed the webinar. We'll see you all again soon.